Normies, they're an empty vessel for you to cream fill with your ideology and send on their way, like robots. You know, the normies are there to accept your seed and then go on to continue your lineage of shit posting on the internet, because that's what we're all doing, right? And I recently was able to intercept a letter from the enemy side. Tricky questions for red pilling normies. Who's the enemy? The enemy? The right. So, all right. So question one, what's question one? A trans woman goes to a waxing salon owned by a Muslim woman who is religiously against sharing intimate space with a man. The trans woman demands to have her penis and balls waxed. The Muslim woman refuses. Who is in the wrong? If you were the judge in this case, what would your ruling be? Okay, so I'm guessing this is talking about, there's this one like Canadian trans woman who like went to a woman's only waxing salon who didn't have bottom surgery. Starting off strong. Yeah, it's really strong with the first question. This throwing in as many nationalities, as many like non-male genders as they non-cis man genders as they can, just chucking it out there. If the Muslim woman is religiously against sharing an intimate space with a man, but they knew that people with like penises and balls could like walk in and ask to be waxed, I don't know why they work there. I don't know why they work there at all. So if the Muslim woman refuses, yeah, they're in the wrong. If you open your doors to the public and you're a public institution, you should be serving the public, and you should abide by Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. So, and thankfully, the Supreme Court said that now includes a gender identity and sexual orientation and sexual identity. So yeah, we're vibing, dude. So we're great. We're doing fine. If Congress was 50% cis men and 50% trans women, male to female, I know for a fact this entire time, the whole time they're going to be talking about trans people here, it's always going to be male to female. Listen, trans men also need a little bit of hate. Why is there no bigotry towards trans men? It's always trans women. You only care about trans women. Listen, trans men exist too, and they deserve just as much discrimination. Okay, listen. Would you think that this is a fair gender balance? Well, one thing here. Trans women are women. That's sick, all right? But the thing is, trans women and cis women both have different experiences in life because they both come from different backgrounds for the virtue of trans women having to have transitioned in their life, right? That, and also, I wouldn't agree with Congress being like 50% black either. I want Congress to look a little bit more, kind of like the demographics of the house of the country. Okay, so if there's like literally no cis women in Congress, I don't think that's good. Just like having literally no trans women in Congress, I don't think that's great either. A fair gender balance. I think both cis women, trans men, and trans women, and non-binaries, just throw the whole lot in. That's fun. So no, I wouldn't say that would be fair, and I wouldn't have to abandon any of my principles to say that. Many people support immigration. I support immigration. It's kind of sick saying immigration, saying that immigrants do jobs that locals won't. Do you think that it's ethical to import foreigners to do such jobs rather than improve wages and working conditions until locals are happy to do them? Well, I'm not sure if I agree with the sentiment that immigrants do jobs that locals won't. Well, it depends on what you mean by won't. If there's like if they don't want to do, they're implying that that they don't want to do them because the working conditions are bad. We should improve the working conditions, but just because we improve the working conditions doesn't mean that people would then just like instantly go there. I mean, the working conditions for being like a janitor at Apple could be really cool, but that sort of like low skilled work isn't really what people like aspire to much. And these sorts of jobs are essential. There's a reason why the big hit of the coronavirus, they called the workers that needed to go back to work essential workers. I mean, see how long your your city runs without like janitors and people running the sewage and people running the water and the electric there, fixing power lines, things like that. More sort of what in the realm of like blue collar, in the realm of low skilled labor. That we would identify there. Imagine how long the country would run without agriculture going. Not that far. So even then, lots of people here aspire for different jobs. We're just pushing people to go into different jobs. We're pushing to be more in a service-based economy. So there's always going to be a space for immigrants. This is predicated on the belief that only if we just improve the working conditions and pay for people in these certain places, that then we would have no need for immigrants. I mean, see how well that's going for Japan with their rapidly dying population. I mean, it's just not working too well. Immigration is a valuable part of any society. Yeah. I mean, I just think anybody with these could like red pill normies is because they don't have the background to debunk any of this stuff. Just when you have when you're just living your life and you're like left leaning and you're just like going through and you're like, civil rights is cool, social justice is cool. When someone hits you with like these sorts of like tricky like weird trick questions about like social, with like weird understandings and warped reality versions of like social justice to try to make you, to red pill you, if you don't have the tools necessary to debunk it, I mean, it could possibly. If the criminal justice system in the US is white supremacist, why are Asians incarcerated lower than whites? Well, okay. All right. Well, here, step one. All right. When we say that I'm guessing this is getting at like systemic racism. Black people are seen as just generally more violent. So are Hispanic people, and more just like your average person, just more predisposed to crime. And that's why that's where the systemic racism comes in. It's on every single level, no matter what. When we're talking about systemic racism, when anybody wants to jump in and think that they're the one to debunk systemic racism, I'll show them the same study that I show everyone else, where a jury is shown like a picture of a fake suspect, and at all points in time the darker skinned suspects are always seen as more guilty. So in that case, they could be getting even lesser sentences. They could be getting better treatment. And that's because of stereotyping, which also isn't good. Even some positive stereotypes aren't good. Let's think of like, Asians being like really good at math, and then you go to the Asian kid in high school and you're like, hey, can you do my homework? I know you're really good at math. This just like stereotyping people. It just isn't cool. I don't know if they're gonna like pull it up, but like men, do we not know that like men are seen as more violent and they're giving like worse sentences than women for the same exact crime? Like that's a thing too. Even though men are the main power holders, just men are just seen as more violent in society, even though they're the main power holders in politics and in the economy. So I don't know. BLM. Oh, here we go. Here we got some BLM questions. BLM says that the disproportionate incarceration and police killings of blacks is evidence of racism. I mean, it is. Do you think that the disproportionate incarceration and police killings of men is evidence of sexism? So this is really funny, because this is like thinking that, the wokes, they think that all men are bad. Yeah, Asian Americans are really heavily dehumanized and stereotyped. Everybody knows the classic, are you Japanese or Chinese? Actually, my family's from Taiwan. my family's from Thailand. Are you Japanese or it's just like, it's pretty bad. If you ever talk to an Asian American, they can let you know. But this is like, the wokes, they think all men are just naturally bad. So, you think that's racism? Well, is men getting locked up more sexism? And listen, you bite the bullet here. Anybody who needs to hear this, you bite the bullet here. Yes, it is sexism. Sexism against men is also sexism. Even though the patriarchy does exist, chief, sexism towards men is real. Men do have problems in society, and being seen as not being able to be as capable of taking care of children as women, so them having higher likelihoods of not being able to gain as much custody of their children as they should be if things were even in family court, and being locked up more and being perceived as more violent and dangerous in police killings and incarceration. Yes, this is also sexism. Yes, very much. Listen, the right does not care about men's issues, not in the slightest. They really don't. They just want to throw men out there. They're disposable. Listen, the right thinks men are disposable. If you're a man out there, they think that you're disposable, you're trash, okay? That you can be thrown away. I think that you're special. You're my special little snowflake, okay? And I think that you're beautiful. A girls' 100-meter sprint is held. The 3 finalists will receive a full ride scholarship to a prestigious university. For one, don't you think it's really telling how sad our society has come, that there's now like races to see who can get a better life through because their family isn't rich enough to pay to put them through school? Isn't that really sad if you think about it? But I guess that's a talk for another day. Maybe the guy who wrote this isn't ready for that conversation, probably. Worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah, that's disgusting. Three of the winners are pre-op trans girls. The 4th, 5th, and 6th place are cis girls. The cis girls complain that the trans girls had an unfair advantage. Are they bigoted? Well, just for one, if they assume that the trans girls have like an unfair advantage just from the sake of them being trans girls, then yeah, I will say they're bigoted. But one thing that I want to pull up, because just me saying that, I don't think that'll be as much of an impact as me showing you that it does make them bigoted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the ultimate research document one more time. I love this thing. And what we're going to do, I want to show you this section right here. And it's trans people in sports. So this is a meta-analysis of many different studies that research trans people's performance in sports and the laws and restrictions surrounding trans people. And the findings found that there was no consistent or direct research indicating that transgender women have an unfair athletic advantage at any stage of their transition. Additional findings show that sports policies are not evidence-based and trans people experience substantial discrimination in sporting institutions. Currently, there is no direct or consistent research suggesting transgender female individuals or male individuals have an athletic advantage at any stage in their transition, and therefore the competitive sports policies that are in place that place restrictions on transgender people need to be considered and potentially revised. So with all of that being known, I know as much as this is a bait, as much as this is a really big bait, most of the time when trans women are in sports, they usually don't do that well. Obviously, the ones that do well are going to get boosted really hard because people are like, oh, look at this fake woman. They're crushing women's sports because they're big burly man with testosterone flowing through their big hardy balls, shit like that. But in reality, trans people don't do that well. If you didn't know, trans people are allowed in the Olympics. They've been allowed in the Olympics since 2002. When was the last time you heard of an Olympic level trans woman athlete who's won like a golden medal? Have you heard of it? I haven't. Maybe it's because trans people just usually don't do that great. They're not like exceptional. Even when it's male to female transition, it's just not that big. It's not that bad. You'll be okay. I promise. So yes, this is disgusting that they're pawning off hundreds of thousands of dollars to get people's lives to be better through a race, and the transgender women who won most likely probably wouldn't have, but in this case, when they did, they didn't have an unfair advantage as per science. Okay. The NBA is majority black. Do you think this is evidence of racism among coaches? Most software companies are majority white. Do you think this is evidence of racism among tech CEOs? So I don't think that it's tech CEOs or coaches that are doing the hiring. Now, listen, I was about to say football. You know how bad it is then. I don't watch basketball. I don't like basketball. I'm not good at basketball. I'm really not. Okay. And with we finally reached the NBA take. And with that being said, I'm not sure how basketball players get into the NBA. For all I know, they could have been raised as a child and groomed into being the perfect NBA player. Like freaking I don't know, like Spartans. They're made like Spartans. They're born into the NBA, and that's their like life calling. They're born into their caste. So that's all I know about the NBA. So, but I do know that it's probably not coaches that are putting. I don't think it's coaches that are putting on players. I don't think. I could be wrong, but maybe. But I do know that tech CEOs aren't doing the hiring at their companies. But is there racism at the NBA? Yeah. I think the one thing that we can look at is why are so many black people in the NBA? Is it because black people are naturally just better at basketball than white people? I'd say no. I haven't seen a study that black people are just like by nature just have have the basketball gene. It's right next to the floppy ball, like the big floppy cock gene. Nobody touches my big floppy cock gene. I'm pretty sure it's just that the conditions that lots of black people are put under when they grow up. Let's say they grow up in like the hood or something, right? And a lot of the people there, there's not much opportunity. Your school isn't good, doesn't lead you down a good path. And for a lot of those kids, they think that like sports is one of the only ways to make it up and get out of there, get your family out of there, right? And for a lot of people, it almost certainly could be. One last one. The British brutally colonized Ireland, starving and killing millions of Irish and banning their language. So many Irish died that their population still hasn't recovered to its pre-industrial level. The Japanese brutally colonized Korea and Taiwan. Today, Ireland, Korea, and Taiwan are more successful and wealthy. Why do you think that that other former colonized like the Congo, Zimbabwe, and Haiti aren't successful today? Well, it's because places like Ireland, Korea, Taiwan were rebuilt. These are really small brain. Even Japan was massively rebuilt after after colonization. Places like the Congo, Zimbabwe, Haiti. I mean, some of these countries only got Can we I didn't spell any word in there right. Can we look when did these countries get their independence? 1960, 1976, Namibia, 1990, 1966? Really? 1962, 1951? Egypt, 1922, thankfully. Lots of these places are absolutely war torn. War torn and only got their independence 60 years ago. 1973. 1990. 1994 is when apartheid ended. The main majority of people in this country weren't able to control the country. They were kept as a second-class citizen up until the 1990s. Okay, so maybe. And then Europe just pulling out, lifting their hands up and then just leaving. Maybe just leaving a massive power vacuum. Maybe controlling these countries for the better part, for the mass 90% of their existence. Maybe that has something to do with these countries not doing so well right now. Oh, also, we could, if you want to talk about it, we could talk about Israel too. Germany only finished paying their reparations to Israel in 2008. Listen, you go to Germany, everyone's driving a BMW. I wonder why, okay? Lots of these places were massively rebuilt. There's massive amounts of material and time and effort put back into rebuilding these nations after they were colonized. And we occupied them for 20 years, dude. We control all their industry. And then we just pick up all the industry and then leave. And you leave them with nothing in the modern day. And they're like, why are all these countries just doing good, my dude? What's wrong? What's wrong with them, dude? Why can't they just get their shit together, dude? Pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, dude. What? Okay, dude. Very small brain takes. Don't allow this to red pill you. Send this to your favorite normie who may be slipping down a dastardly path. because a lot of people who slide down the alt-right pipeline, it's very, very hard for them to get out. With any tangential knowledge about any of these things, it's very easy to debunk it. But these people play off the ability to get to people before they have the tools necessary to defend themselves. It's literal predation on people who cannot defend themselves intellectually from these dog shit talking points. So be careful out there. And hopefully this could help any of you all.